African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation as of October 18, 2025. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. Units of the North Troop Group have improved their tactical position. They inflicted defeats on infantry, airborne assault brigades, an assault regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a territorial defense brigade, and a border guard detachment of the Ukrainian border service in the areas of the settlements of Korchakovka, Sadki, Andreevka, Sumy, Strelitskaya Pushkarka, and Proletarskoye in the Sumy region. On the Kharkiv direction, defeats were inflicted on mechanized and infantry brigade units of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements of Volchansk and Dergachi in the Kharkiv region. The Armed Forces of Ukraine lost up to 205 servicemen, an armored combat vehicle, 12 cars, and 5 artillery guns, including 2 of Western manufacture. A radio-electronic warfare station, 2 ammunition depots, and 2 supply depots were destroyed. Units of the West Troop Group occupied more advantageous lines and positions. They inflicted defeats on personnel and equipment of 4 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements of Kupiansk, Monikanovka in the Kharkiv region, Drobashevo, and Yerevaya in the Donetsk People's Republic. Enemy losses amounted to over 230 servicemen, a tank, 4 armored combat vehicles, 23 cars, and 3 artillery guns, including 2 of Western manufacture. 5 radio-electronic warfare stations and 5 ammunition depots were destroyed. Units of the South Troop Group, as a result of active offensive actions, liberated the settlement of Pleshchivka in the Donetsk People's Republic. Defeats were inflicted on formations of 2 mechanized, mountain assault brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a special purpose brigade, and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements of Drushkovka, Konstantinovka, Sviatopokrovskoye, Pozino, and Berstok in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost up to 195 servicemen, 4 armored combat vehicles, 13 cars, and 4 artillery guns. 2 radio-electronic warfare stations, 4 ammunition depots, and 3 supply depots were destroyed. Units of the Center Troop Group occupied more advantageous lines and positions, inflicted defeats on personnel and equipment of 4 mechanized, airborne assault brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a territorial defense brigade, and 3 National Guard brigades in the areas of the settlements of Artemovka, Turetskoye, Shevchenko, Novoalexandrovka, Petrovskoye, Udaknoye, and Krasnoarmysk in the Donetsk People's Republic. Losses of Ukrainian armed formations amounted to up to 580 servicemen, an armored combat vehicle, 5 cars, and an artillery gun. Units of the East Troop Group continued to advance deep into the enemy's defense. They inflicted damage on formations of 3 mechanized brigades and an assault regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements of Uspanovka, Poltavka in Zaporizhia region, Podgavrilovka, and Pokrovsk in Dnipropetrovsk region. The enemy lost more than 280 servicemen, a tank, an armored combat vehicle, 14 vehicles, a multiple launch rocket system, a Western-made artillery piece, and 2 electronic warfare stations. Units of the Dnieper Troop Group inflicted damage on personnel and equipment of 2 mechanized brigades, 2 coastal defense brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and 2 territorial defense brigades in the areas of the settlements of Novoandreevka, Stepnogorsk, Primorsk in Zaporizhia region, Sadov and Lviv in Kherson region. More than 75 servicemen, an armored combat vehicle, 13 vehicles, 3 electronic warfare stations, an ammunition depot, and a supply warehouse were destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, strike unmanned aerial vehicles, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian Armed Forces troop groups inflicted damage on transport infrastructure facilities, Enterprises of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex supporting the actions of the armed forces of Ukraine, the Drone Operator Training Center of the Ukrainian Main Intelligence Directorate, a workshop for the production and assembly of unmanned aerial vehicles, a Ukrainian air defense radar station, as well as temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations in 156 areas. Air defense means shot down 4 guided aerial bombs, 6 MRs multiple launch rocket system rockets of U.S. production, and 140 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, destroyed 667 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 90,877 unmanned aerial vehicles, 633 surface-to-air missile systems, 25,557 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,603 multiple launch rocket system combat vehicles, 30,564 field artillery and mortars, 44,265 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.